so my name is Josh McVeigh-Schultz. I'm actually a PhD student in the Media Arts and Practice program in the School of Cinematic Arts. This year, I got an Intel fellowship to work on a dissertation that I'm going to talk about with you, and I'm basically looking for collaborators, people who find this project interesting and want to work on it with me. It's not a game pitch, which is, I guess, what everybody else has been doing here. So I'm framing this more as like, if you want to do directed research units with me, that's great. If you wanted to work on this independently, that's great. There's also an opportunity for a summer research stipend if possible, if things work out. So title here is AudienceBots, Audience-Driven Telepresence Devices. And I'm going to sort of unpack what I mean by AudienceBots and telepresence. So in 2009, I worked on a project where I would walk up to people on the street with a camera, and I would say, hey, can I interview you? And they would say, well, sure, what's it about? And I say, I don't know yet. People online are watching what I'm doing right now and what you're doing. And they're forming questions, and they're then voting quickly on the questions that they form, and deciding what they're going to ask. And then whatever question at a given time has the most votes will come out of this phone as a voice-synthesized message. And it was amazing the kinds of, the ways that this transformed the social interactions that were possible. Really different kinds of questions were possible to be asked, and really different kinds of answers were also possible. So this project really excited me, but one thing that was always felt a little bit missing was that there was all this really rich, exciting interaction happening in the background. And all that happened in the physical space that you see here is, the phone, right? The phone stood in for the entire audience. So in my dissertation work, I've been researching ways to make live audiences more compelling through interactive objects. So this is a project, this is like a very sort of sketchy alpha prototype of one example of what I'm calling an audience bot. This is a microphone that it reacts to a person in front of it, right? So there's a little camera that's actually modulating its behavior in some ways. It follows the person to more or less degree. But the key here is that the way that it interacts is actually affected by audience input. So the way I'm describing this is the microphone's mood changes. It can be more aggressive or more playful, depending on what an audience actually thinks about the speaker at a given moment. It can also be more or less attentive. And the way this works is, so like I mentioned, there's a camera that tracks in physical space, but that's modulated by the remote audience decisions, and that sort of determines the behavior of this microphone. And right now it's a very, very simple iPad application where users can sort of, using the accelerometer, tilt their mobile device in one direction or another to affect these different parameters. I think this probably is something that if you were collaborating with me, we'd want to try out some different options. I have a background in some HCI research, and I'd love to sort of get some really rich user testing. Quickly, system design tools. This is built in a development environment that I really like. It's called the NetLab Toolkit. It uses WebSockets that sort of communicate via Java Server Hub that's running locally. It's with Arduino, but actually the development toolkit is set up so that you can write everything in ActionScript, or they're now opening it up to jQuery. And then the iPad application, right now it's in it's a Flash-based prototyping platform, but ultimately it'll be migrated to Objective-C. And the goals here for the next steps, I'd like to build a scalable application based on this alpha prototype, so something that anybody in the world at any time could be using. This gets a little bit complicated if you know about WebSockets and trying to sort of manage all of those data streams. I'd like to refine the algorithm that drives these 5 servo motors to reflect particular moves of the object in ways that are actually pretty interesting when you talk about the trigonometry of this behavior. Right? It's not as simple as just moving one servo independently, right? They all have to be related, and the math behind that is really exciting to me. And then finally, I'd like to basically combine these two projects you saw. I'd like to have a text-to-speech voice component and a speaker system on the microphone. So it's not just listening, it's actually speaking back on behalf of the audience. And I'd like to then develop kind of capabilities for text-based user contributions on the tablet end as well. Opportunities, if you want to work with me, I have a lot of sort of experience working with folks at Intel Labs and Interaction Experience Research Group. So there may be some opportunities to actually showcase this work there and meet some people there. I also co-author papers. I know many of you are in master's programs and not necessarily interested in that research path, but if you are, talk to me and there's maybe a way we can do some co-authoring. And then, like I mentioned, there's a possibility of a summer research stipend, also a possibility of turning this into a Kickstarter and getting some exposure that way. So if you're interested, talk to me after class, and I can give you my contact information.
All right, great, thank you. All right.